Welcome back to the Management Diary. Today we are hosting a VLIR scholar. She's in the area or space of aquaculture. She's currently pursuing her master's at the University of Ghent, that is in Belgium. In this conversation, we are going to discuss all the information you need as a potential scholar so that you can make a successful application. You're going to get information about where you're going to find this scholarship, the application process, and all the necessary documents that will be needed to submit a successful application. You'll also get details about the funding package that is provided for students, that is international students, of course, and then you're going to find all the necessary details about immigration and life in Belgium. Our guest tonight is Daisy Muriuki, and she's going to tell us more. She's a scholar, she's been there for quite some time. This is the Management Diary, where we get to have serious conversation on matters career, research, lifestyles, and scholarship. And in case it's your first time listening, you may want to check out more of our episodes regarding many other scholarships out there. Daisy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So who is Daisy?
Yeah, so just as you said, my name is Daisy Muriuki, master's student at the Ghent University in Belgium. I'm currently pursuing a Master of Science in Aquaculture, and I'm in my second year, so I'm almost wrapping up my studies.
Tell me about when you first interacted with VLIR scholarship. This scholarship in Belgium. What is it?
Well, the VLIR scholarship is actually, I'd say, among the best scholarships one could get in Europe. Yeah, so the VLIR scholarship, I first heard about it from my friends and my professors from my previous university. And after that, I followed it up and got all the information to find that it's a government-funded organization that collaborates with universities to fund research and education for international students.
So between 2020, 2021, that is when you graduated.
Yeah.
And 2024, what was happening during this period before you started your master's?
Well, so I graduated in 2021. Then I had to be outside for a few months and wait for my official certificates from my undergrad, which came in around August. So immediately I got my certificates from my school, Kenyatta University in Kenya. I proceeded to apply for an internship and I landed in an aquaculture facility, the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Organization, in Sagana, Kenya. So that's where I had 2-year research assistant internship. And then in September 2023, I got my scholarship to come and pursue my master.
So, I asked that question specifically so that we can try and discuss more about what somebody needs to be considered as a potential scholar on this program. Is experience necessary for one to be considered a potential scholar? And as you answer that, could you generally tell us what other things one needs to present so that they can be considered ideal candidates?
Well, yeah, I could say that, of course, having experience gives you an upper hand. It's a very competitive scholarship and it's given to students from Africa, students from Latin America, students from Asia. And something like from my course, Aquaculture, we have 10 students only all around those continents. So you really have at least to have things which give you a higher hand on the rest of the applicants. So pertaining that, generally for VLIR, number one, you have your nationality is your first qualification point, where you have to be a citizen of countries in Africa or in Asia or in Latin America. And also more, at times they specify the specific countries because you find that maybe they have not had any connections in some countries, like in Asia, maybe mostly I see they collaborate with Philippines and Indonesia and a few more other countries. So you have to look like the country I'm from, is it listed among the member countries for collaboration? So if you pass the nationality check, you have the educational qualifications. Mostly for these scholarship in our Kenyan system, I'd say if you have second class honors upper division, you qualify. So that's like the second highest rank of qualifying, like graduating. So it doesn't take you to have the best, but you have to be like above average and check your like education country specific qualifications.
So what about age? And as we started, is experience strictly necessary?
Oh yeah, thank you. So the age you have for a master's, as the one I applied for, you have to be 35 and below. And for the work experience, well, from my experience, I worked in the government research institution for like 2 years, but only as an intern. Yeah. So I think that played a role because even when I interact with my fellow scholars, they tell me like they did an attachment somewhere or they were doing something relevant to that field of study because it's a master, so you have to build on something. But I'd not discourage someone who has just graduated the same year. I think the faster you can apply and get, the better, because I still have other friends or classmates who got their scholarship immediately after they graduated from their undergrad. So I think your academic qualifications and small things like get involved somewhere with like trainings, be open to work in a few places. At least it gets you somewhere.
You see, I've been listening through all about these expectations they do have, and I find them mostly achievable. At least they don't close out a lot of people. So how do you demonstrate? And this generally goes into the application process and how it goes. Now, I'd like you to take me through how you went applying to this scholarship. So when was the first time you made an attempt on this scholarship?
Well, that is quite funny because at first I did like just an application to test the waters, see the requirements, because at times they say we require you to have a language test for this particular course. We require you to have your degree certificates, to have a passport. In fact, these are among the requirements, to have a passport. And at that time, I didn't have all my documents. Also, I wanted to see, really, does this link work or is it? Yeah. So my first application was somewhere in 2022. I didn't have all my documents, but I realized that when you apply, because you apply through the school responds. And so I was like, okay. So at the end of it, I didn't get like an official response of you've got the scholarship, but at least I was able to see how to approach my application for when I was ready.
Allow me to cut you short. So you did a bachelor's in biology and then you went to do a master's in aquaculture.
Yeah.
So this may make me think, is it because you wanted to do a master's in aquaculture, or is it because aquaculture was one of those programs that are funded? And as you answer that question, is there a specific institution that one can apply to, or I can apply to any institution in Belgium? Allow me to interrupt this conversation and bring something to your attention. Since we launched this podcast a few months ago, we've had over 50,000 people watching our episodes, which we are very thankful for, and over 12,000 hours. However, we are currently trying to build our audience so that we can get the leverage to invite more guests to our podcast. and we can continue bringing more insights. As you can see in one of these sides, and I bet that's here, at least 80.7% of the people watching our podcasts are not subscribers to this channel. And what we are currently focusing on is building our audience. So I'm requesting that if you may like to support us, if you like what we are sharing, you support our channel by clicking that subscribe button so that we can grow. Our promise is to continue bringing you strong guests with more insights so that we can bring these conversations where you are.
Yeah, so my bachelor's, when you do a bachelor's of science in biology, it's actually a very wide field. You get to learn medical stuff like human medical research, things about the human research part of science, but also you get to learn zoology, you get to learn botany. So I think from my undergrad, I had a very wide scope to choose from. And also I always knew that I wanted to work in research, but specifically medical research. But since I ended up doing my internship for 2 years, well, I'll call it practice because it's 2 years. So I ended up working for 2 years in an aquaculture facility, but it's a national research facility. So I was aiming to work in the labs, but found myself on the technical side, the bonds, the daily work, and I was like, okay, this is quite interesting, and there's opportunities in this field, and I've done a lot of zoology, so I think it will work out in aquaculture.
So it doesn't mean like that there's a strict list of programs that people need to check.
Oh, yeah, about that. You asked whether we only apply to one university. Yeah.
Mhm.
So under the VLIR scholarship, they collaborate with different universities. So there's University of Ghent, which I'm in, Catholic University of Leuven, I believe, VUB, Brussels. So depending on the course that you pick, when you open the VLIR website, they'll give you a list of courses and a master's. Right now, I've seen they've given a few, 3 courses in undergrad, PhD projects. So you just pick the course and you see where it's offered. So if it's aquaculture and they are collaborating with Ghent for aquaculture, I just applied through Ghent for aquaculture. Yeah.
Now, I like to assume my listeners or people who are listening to this conversation, they have never made an attempt on VLIR whatsoever, even if some of them probably may have done it. And I'd like us to take them through this application process step by step, as if they're learning about it for the first time, but based on your experience, right?
Yeah.
So I have heard about VLIR scholarship. I've checked the description of this video. I've found a link where I can apply to VLIR scholarship. Now, my question is, where do I get started?
Yeah, so when you get your link for VLIR scholarship, it leads you, probably if it's one of the links, might lead you to the VLIR website page. When you see course you're interested in, because it's not only for aquaculture, there's other food science and other courses. If you find the course you want to study, you click on the course. It takes you directly to the university application. So on the university application site, you're able to maybe follow the university procedures like creating an application, a student account. You're able to get spaces to upload your transcripts, to upload your personal information, and any other special requirements like your identification, your passport, something like if the course has language requirement certificates, like language requirement certificates, and if you have to write your motivational letters. So that is how you build up to your application.
So does this imply
Mm-hmm.
that every single thing is channeled through the university? Do I need to make a separate application to VLIR?
Well, no, you don't make a separate application to VLIR. VLIR works with the university. So you start at the university, and through your application, you have, like, based on my own
Experience.
Ghent experience, might be dependent on Catholic University. So based on that, you're able to pick, I believe it's the same thing, but based on it, you're able to check, do I want a scholarship? Am I applying for a scholarship? Yes or no? If you click yes, they give you the choice of VLIR scholarship. You click yes. If you click yes, you're applying for a scholarship. They open more tabs for you to add more information needed by the scholarship. Yeah.
So technically, everything goes through the university, and whatever you've said just makes sense. But then what is everything? What did you have to submit to this university so that they can know you're actually interested in this scholarship? Beginning with, did you have to pay any application fees at any stage?
No, the application is totally free. You don't have to pay any fees, but small fees can be in between later in the visa application process. Yeah, but normally it's a free application procedure.
So take me through the documents you submitted and how I can go preparing them.
Yeah, so of course your first academic documents are very important, and something with VLIR, they know, even the university and both the scholarship providers, at times they ask you for legalized documents. So it's not only having your documents, but again, that comes later on, because the legalization has to have a timeline of not older than 6 months, not older than 3 months. Yeah. So you have to prepare your documents, your undergrad documents, your results, your transcripts. Yeah. And so the first steps involves going through the university's selection committee. So for you to proceed to the next step of furthering it's a step-by-step application. So it's a step-by-step application, which begins with you getting admitted to the program. So actually, it's a step-by-step application, which begins with you being accepted first to the program. And then when you're accepted, you're told, we have seen your documents, kindly do this and that. So first, you just do a normal application of passport, undergrad documents, and just normal basic things. But when you pass the selection program, they see you're fit for that particular program. Let's say for Masters in Science Aquaculture, you did a relevant course related to that, you got good scores. So after you're selected for admission, they proceed now to take you to a new phase of you've been selected for admission, kindly submit your legalized documents and such things. So at this point, your usual papers, you have to take them to the Ministry of Education for your country. So you get the documents legalized, and also you have to take them to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that they can be internationally stamped and approved to be true documents to be used.
So you are speaking about the originals or copies?
The originals. Yeah. You take the originals. Legalization is just that they attach some extra sheets with a scan of a code that can be scanned by the visa processing people, and also the school can receive it and verify that it's correct. They don't touch or tamper with your documents, but you have to go with the real originals.
All right. So technically, legalization means going to embassy and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That is in your Kenyan case, right?
Yeah. Ministry of Education, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the embassy.
Now, I don't know if you submitted any essays during the application. What were these essays about?
Yeah, so they only require you to have a very simple one-page motivation letter. It's less, I'd not strongly say it's a critical thing. Like, I'd say it's just a one-page motivation letter for why do you want to do this course. And the things I think are good to include are not only why you want to do the course, why you're fit enough, what are your present plans from it, how will you benefit not only yourself from this course, but also your country, because they empower us to be like relevant and bring development to these like countries or continents where they get their members from. Also, they ask you why. Why are you going to Belgium? Why did you choose Ghent? So it's good to have a bit of like knowledge about where you're going and what you think you find interesting about the place. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember what you wrote so that we can work with a real tangible example.
Yeah, I think I have a small.
Please guide me through what you as an individual wrote. And we're just confined to the fact that this is in your specific case. Somebody else will have to do it in their own unique way. How did you do it?
So I believe at first I introduced myself. Of course, you always have to, who are we working with? And before I even introduced myself, I thanked them for the opportunity to apply for this, because it's just not any other normal thing. So you have to add some things like appreciating the fact that you get the opportunity to even apply for such a thing. Introduced myself and a small background of what I've been doing, what I've learned, like small background of biology students turned aquaculture scientist. Yeah. And I told them why I found the course interesting, how it adds to the food security, You can state the relevance of whatever you'll be studying to the global economy, food security to the country, nutrition, animal welfare, because anything you do, you don't just do it, you do it with a reason. So I find it quite relevant, as I did, to state like why you're doing it. Also, for the part where I said why Ghent or why Belgium, I had done my research, so I had found that it's a quite interesting country with diversity, in fact, diversified even in its own government, and with some very interesting systems and very high level of education. And not only that, but also amazing like recreational sites and social opportunities, which is important to mention, because we are not only students and scientists, we are also human beings. So I'd like to go see the arts, the museum, and such things. Yeah.
And all this went into a one-page document.
Yeah, you really have to know how to use your words.
So, this being a master's, I don't know if you had to submit a research proposal at any point.
Not really. For my master, we did not have to submit a research proposal, because it's already planned, like program with everything set up. And when it gets to the stage where you need to do your thesis, like I am right now, the school. Actually, the thing I love about this university of mine and the program and everything is how organized they are. You'll see even in the applications and everything, like they pre-plan everything. So even during your thesis, you don't have to, unless you have your own personal topic you want to submit, they give you like topics to choose from, and you choose one that works by you. They vet the applicants and give you a topic. So we didn't have to do any proposals in our application.
And how long does your master's take?
It's a 2-year international master program.
Does everybody get 2 years, or there are some people who get less or more?
Well, according to VLIR, of course, your duration depends on your funding. So VLIR requires you to do it in 2 years. So unless something comes up, in life, some things happen. So, but normally it's 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, I think we are so close to getting this master's. And one thing that has normally happened that you're going to advise us is sometimes you may be required to attend interviews.
Yeah.
You may be required to go somewhere and defend yourself. At any stage, did you ever have to attend an interview?
Interestingly enough, not really. Not really. We didn't have any personal interviews. So I think what's really the interview process I'd call here is that the journey of getting that scholarship is not easy. It wears you out because you have to keep making appointments to the embassy. You have to be making appointments to different places. So it's not just a one-day application and you're done. So the process is so cumbersome. I wouldn't say cumbersome, but it's very self-involving. So I think through that, they really can tell who is like committed to this, who is serious about this. So I believe maybe that's why they have the interviews. Yeah.
Now, that makes life at least more interesting.
Yeah, truly.
Because people sometimes can get so scared with interviews.
Yeah.
I have sometimes I have a very bad experience with interviews because you've worked so hard until you've gotten to the interview room for only a 15 minutes discussion to say that you're not good enough after you've done a lot of work. So I think this one saves you a lot of trouble. Now, how are your timelines there? When did you submit your application? When did you receive the first feedback? When did you receive the second and the final feedback?
Well, again, I have a very, I'd like to say, unique case because first, working with my timelines, the normal deadline is on 29th February. Well, according to our year, I don't know, they might change it dependent on the year which you apply, but application is open somewhere from early November to the end of February. So my application was good. Only one part remained that I didn't have a language certificate, which was mandatory then for my application. But I communicated with my school, Ghent, and I was able to ask them, can I submit my language tests later on, since I've already submitted this, I've done the exam, but I've not gotten it. So we were able to set a timeline like, it's okay, but kindly submit your your language tests by 15th March. So such things happen, and it's good to be communicative. Do not disqualify yourself too early or say it's too late, because I just kept in touch, sending like my exam unofficial results, telling them I got this, I'm just waiting for this. So normally 29th, but in case of delay in your passports or delay in some certificates like those ones, you can always do that. So apart from that, they reach back to you. They reached back to me after that in end of April, like I think around 26 April, and unfortunately it was not a yes. They told me we put you in the waiting list. So they start communicating scholarship results in April.
Okay.
So those who got their scholarships first choice, they were told early April, mid-April. we have given you, but those in the waiting list, I think we got it in the end of April.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So between, I can only imagine this kind of pressure and uncertainty that
Yeah.
exists around being on the waiting list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that even accelerates or exacerbates the uncertainty, because when you are rejected, you know, I'm rejected. Now, being in the middle means you're either here or there. Now, at what were you doing when you received this confirmation that you're finally accepted?
Well, I got my confirmation later. Actually, my waiting list came in April, but I got the official congratulations, you got your scholarship in beginning of July, like 6th June. No, sorry, wait. 6th of June. So it's April, May, nothing, June, which was a very, very like
That is exactly 2 years ago,
yeah.
apparently, because we are having this conversation on this on the 7th of June.
It might be the exact hour because I got it around 5-6 p.m. in Kenya. So, whoa.
So what were you doing at this time? That is 5-6 p.m. Kenyan time. What were you doing when you got this email?
I was just chilling in a house somewhere and talking to a friend.
Okay.
Yeah, my friend called me and and we were talking and decided, okay, let's catch up online. So I got some data from him, sorry, and I decided, before I text him on WhatsApp, let me check my emails because I'm always in the business when you're adulting. First social media contact is email. So I check my emails. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was one interesting night.
And let me assume this friend was the first person to know that you actually got that offer.
I don't even know who I told. There was someone else present. I was also with another female friend of mine. So he was like, and then I started making these calls to my family and of course my friend.
That finally the offer is here.
Finally, baby, it seemed very unbelievable because they say if you're on the waiting list, it's only if one person like rejects their scholarship offer because it's already like we are picking 10 people. So, and you're on these other different lists. So if one of the applicants, one of the successful people says no, we'll give you. And I don't think there's anyone who will say no. So I did not expect, but good thing is when I got my rejection, I told them, thank you so much for the offer. Kindly consider me if you have anything else. So I didn't consider it as like, I've gotten rejected, I won't talk again. This is a waste of time. I wrote back to them and said like, thank you very much. And in case of anything, let me know. So I might have been the 10th on the waiting list, but my response helped.
Yeah. It's called, when somebody is motivated to get something,
Yeah.
they would always be like, okay, today I've failed, but then there's always a next time. So I will still come back. And if you hadn't gotten it, probably you could have still applied in 2024 and be like, you guys, last year you left me at the waiting list. Now, I'm just curious. This offer that you just received this one evening with your friend, what does this offer read? What does it say? What does it contain?
Well, of course, the congratulatory part, and then they describe this. The first step is to accept. You're also given a chance to accept or reject the offer in a certain duration of time. So, in the midst of your excitement, you have to realize you've gotten to a very critical point, and also how you handle it might get you in or out, because if you fail, if you say, yay, I got my offer, and you forget to click accept and you proceed with the rest of the things, you'll be automatically disqualified and it will be a happy day for someone in the meeting. Yeah, so after that, they also offer you a chance to like create an account now, not only an account for your other things which you will require as a student in Ghent, in Belgium, in Ghent, and also as a VLIR student, where they open things like for you how to apply for housing, how to apply for banks, and how to step-by-step descriptions, how to apply for your visa. So you now enter a very critical stage, actually.
Let's talk about money.
Yeah.
When we say a scholarship, we expect some financial terms to be attached to this.
Yeah.
So on this letter, on this offer that you've received, I expect them to explicitly state what they're offering for your funding package. And our listeners would be very curious to know, what does the VLIR scholarship funding package contain in as much details as possible?
Yeah. So the VLIR scholarship is considered as a full scholarship because some scholarships are partial. This one is a full scholarship. So by full in definition of this scholarship, they cater for your flights to go to Belgium. In fact, even to come back from Belgium to Africa, they also will pay for my flight. So they offer your flights fully paid. They pay for in my case, but these things also, they're dependent on the year, because in my year, they paid a bit of visa fee. So you only pay the small administrative fees, but they take care of the larger amounts that you normally have to pay for the visa. Apart from that, they pay, you get a waiver for your tuition fee because normally, I think, I'm not quite sure of the amount people have to pay for my master when they're not on scholarship. Maybe it's around 6,000, 4,000, I'm not sure. But being a scholarship student, you get a subsidized amount to pay for your masters. But the money they give you, they also give you a monthly stipend. So from your monthly stipend, which is quite adequate, in fact, you can pay for your rent, house, school accommodation with it. You can pay for your day-to-day life expenses with it. So that's just about it.
Okay, let's talk exact numbers. But then before we start talking about exact numbers, what currency are we using here?
Yeah, so it's Belgium, so normally it's euros.
So from here onwards, guys, shift your conversation to euros. 1 euro is something like 1.02 USD. So you can also convert that to your home currency. Now, what amount are we looking at here in terms of stipends? And how frequently do you guys get provided with stipends?
Yeah, so you get a monthly stipend, and the amount again is dependent on that year's, if there's any amendments or changes. So according to my year, we got a stipend for 1,400 euros per month to service your student life. Yeah.
So this 1,400, you said you're supposed to pay some portion of your fees.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to pay for accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to cater for your daily expenses, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's begin with the most basic, the fees. How much of this 1,400 goes into your fees?
Well, the tuition fees or the school fees, it's a once per year thing that you have to pay. So for one academic year, I pay 1,000 euros, I think. Also, it can change according to the year, the school. But for me right now, it's like 1,000 euros per year. So I like to handle my stipend as a monthly salary. It's the same way you're working somewhere and you have to strategize how you live. So it's the same thing. Your stipend acts as a monthly salary and you have to plan, you have to save. It teaches you a lot of saving culture and such things. So
technically, For every 1,400, you're going to part with something in the region of 90 to 95 euros for your fees, right, per month, which is okay.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing, which is usually a very big challenge, is called accommodation.
Yeah.
And let's begin from the basics. Before you moved from your homeland, she's Kenyan. So before you moved from Kenya to Belgium, who arranged your accommodation at Ghent?
Well, after you have gotten your scholarship and all, you get a chance to apply for accommodation. So, and if you're a VLIR scholar or Erasmus or any other scholarship, you get priority in accommodation, in student accommodation. At least you have a chance to secure housing in your school. So before I left home, I had applied. You're given choices from the university accommodation, which one you'd prefer. So I had already applied. So, and I already had I knew I'm going to live in this student home. This is the address. So if I fly there, get there, go to my address. Yeah.
So technically, this was done before you moved into. Did you have to make any prior payments?
No, not really. In fact, I had to pay, I think it was a few weeks after. Yeah, they give you some time. Yeah.
I have had cases where students travel from their home country and move into university accommodation and feel like it is not a good place for them. But they cannot move because they are usually bound by maybe a 1 year or 6 months contract. Were you required to sign any contracts?
Yeah, in fact, the renting system in Belgium, normally, regardless of whether you live in the student accommodation, even when you go outside to live in the residential places, you have to sign contracts, 6 months, 1 year contract. So if you're not sure that you want a 1 year contract, or you feel like you might later on need to move out, according to your personal preference, I think you can specify that you're interested in 6 months contract. But the good thing is, if you're a scholar, they give you a longer duration to have somewhere to stay for a year. But after a year, you can now move outside. So even for myself, I moved out after my first year of staying inside.
Now, tell me, how much did you then have to part with on a monthly basis for this university accommodation?
University accommodation depends again on which house, because there's studio rooms, there's single rooms, meaning like a room for one person, but a shared floor, kitchen. So it varies depending on the type of accommodation you have. So mine was something around 490 euros, which I'd call 500 euros. But for other people, it's 600, 680, 700. So you just get what you're willing to pay for.
So in your case, we are saying around 30% of your stipend went into your accommodation, right?
Yeah,
but this can vary.
Yeah, but just no accommodation in Belgium or in first world countries is usually takes the larger part of your earnings. Even buying a house is quite something. Yeah.
Yeah, it is quite expensive. I can tell that because from my own personal experience, and I have hosted over 40 scholars, different scholarships in different countries. And half of them are in some of these developed countries. Accommodation is a very, very serious problem, and it takes a big chunk of your stipend. So people need to be well prepared and aware of that.
Yeah.
But then the good thing is, at least the university steps up and helps you guys get some place to stay.
Yeah.
How you are remaining with around? Don't worry, I'm doing my math here. Forgive my
Counting my.
No. I'm doing this because I know it is extremely important for somebody to come to that point, not expecting to get gold on the street.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of misinformation that people end up over expecting.
Yeah.
and they come underprepared.
Yeah.
So at least I like it when people know these things in black and white.
Yeah.
Do you think
Mm-hmm.
the remaining 60% is sufficient for somebody to live off comfortably as a student?
Yeah, truly, it's quite sufficient. Yeah, because lots of students, if you're here and you just want to come study and live your life, you have like a visa where you can travel to all EU countries. So you have enough money to travel, you have enough money to do stuff. So yeah, the money is quite enough.
I like to say I'm a very ambitious person and I want to come out of Belgium with a lot of money, like with a lot of euros.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know there's an upper limit to the amount of money I can be provided with as my stipend.
Yeah.
But then I also know I'm able, I can work. So do I have any provisions according to VLIR and according to your visa? How much time am I provided with to work during semester dates and during like off semester dates, like holidays?
Well, okay. So you get I don't know if they call it a D visa. I don't know the visa language, but the type D visa, student visa, allows you to to be a student. Of course, I'm a full-time student, but also apart from that, you have like stipulated hours for working 600 hours per year, I believe. So however you choose to divide that is dependent on you. If you want to work days in the evenings when you're free, if you want to work weekends only, if you want to work during summer breaks. So it's dependent on you how you spend those times that you're given. But also again, the government revises, these things are revised and you have to keep checking. When you're already here, you can get information of so how much time do we have to work this year? So you have time for student job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it means the 600 hours, you can spend them as you wish. So if I say I want to spend the next 3 months working like crazy, assuming I can, because there's also other requirements for you to meet your academic like grades and such and attendance. But then you can concentrate a lot of work during a certain period and then remain with this work afterwards, right?
Yeah. Well, FLIR already requires you to have very good grades because you get scholarship and it's a signed contract for the first year. So how you perform on your first year gets you the other amount for the next year. So you can just come and say, okay, I'll just work all the time. You might fail because also the system here of education is very serious. They want you to learn. They always keep you engaged. So I barely myself worked during the semester, but some of my friends do. So it's really intense and you have to balance. Also, the companies, if they know you're a student, some only offer you work for thrice a week. So the system is already set up to know like this is a student, I can only give them 3 days a week work and this number of hours. Also, the amount you work for within your 600 hours is tax-free. But if you work hours beyond 600, you have to pay tax. So you also have personal considerations to make.
Right. Now, I like to assume all this is stipulated in your type D student visa.
Yeah, I tend to think so.
Now, did you pay for this visa during your scholarship application? How was the whole process like, beginning from the start?
Well, so after you've already gotten your scholarship, as we said, you have to proceed to the next step of how do you go to that country that you've been called to. So you have to know how you fly there. And so how you fly, how will I get a visa to allow me to enter into this new territory and with a new government. So you have a visa okay, you have Belgian, like say Belgian embassies in Kenya, and when you check their website, they give you like information of how to apply for visas, what do we need, and they tell you where to go to apply for visa. So in my country, Kenya, you go to TLS, I think it's called, somewhere in Westlands, if I'm not wrong. So there, before you go there, you have to check again the website for TLS, book and see what is required. Normally, they require medical certificates, like from my case, from my school, and my scholarship providers required medical certificates. Of course, they will require accommodation, proof of accommodation, of which we said you will have it from the university. So now you have approval of accommodation, contacts people for the country you're going to, of which VLIR provides you contact people from the university and also from the organization. Proof of funds. When you get scholarship, they send you a scholarship certificate, so you have approval of funds. Good conduct, of course. You have to be a very disciplined citizen. So you have to have a good conduct, also which is timed in between 6 months, not older than 6 months. So you have to submit that also. Of course, importantly, your passport for identification, passport photos, quality ones, not our normal. You have to have like standard passport photos, but that you can get in specialized like places. Otherwise, if they are not good enough, they also take passport photos in TLS, like the place where you apply your visa, and a very small administration fee. I think I paid something like 3,000. I'm not sure.
Kenyan shillings.
Yeah.
All right. So that is something in the region of 20 euros.
Yeah.
Now, all this process, and we've not mentioned how you got to Belgium. I am tempted to believe you went through sea.
No.
So this guy sent you a flight ticket, or how was this process now after you've received your visa? How was the entire process until you get to the university?
Oh yeah, sorry, something I also forgot to mention on the requirements for the visa is your flight itinerary. I think you're also supposed to give that for your visa, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong. So, of course, your communication with the school, they give you options. Which flights do you want? Different airlines, different days and times. So you pick whichever you want and they pay for it through their travel agent, and then they send you your flight itinerary and and then your tickets, how to get them. So I think you also need to submit that for your visa. So I got mine from them.
Do you remember the first day you got there? I mean, like, so when you left, I don't know, JKIA, that is in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah.
How was the experience until you got to the other side? So this was you with your bags crying throughout the airport and the lights, you see.
Oh my goodness. Well, it was my first time traveling, so I was very anxious. I didn't sleep the previous night. I wouldn't say it's because of excitement, but it's mostly because I was very anxious. Because we don't know, we think airports are these foreign places and it's so scary, and I was scared of doing anything wrong and missing my flight. Yeah, all these dramas we see, but thankfully I was able to get there on time, like 3 hours, I think. Safest. I got there as early as I could, on time. Yeah, and followed also the university again, who are always in close contact with you. They give you videos step by step, like when you get here, do this, do this. So I also had downloaded my videos for instructions, how to do this, how to do this. So they give you very, very good explanations of do this when you get to, because I had to go to Dubai, then from Dubai I had to go to Brussels. From Brussels I had to go to Ghent alone. as a first time traveler. So they give you step by step of how to do it. Yeah.
So you got to Ghent at what time?
I think it was around 12, 1 afternoon hours.
Was there a procession to welcome you to that side? How was everything arranged from that end?
Well, the good thing is, nothing, you just follow the ideas and you get to the university accommodation. As I think I got there on Saturday. Get to the university accommodation office, they give you your key and you go to your room. So there's no special event or procession on that day. But later on, they plan student welcome weeks. There's a student welcome week. They have events. Yeah. After that, when everybody is there, because we don't all get there on the same day. So they do that, like they say, student welcome week. Orientation starts on date 10 September. So everybody be in Ghent by date 10. Yeah.
So that's you, an international student, all the way from Kenya,
Yeah.
traveling to a new country,
Yeah.
new environment, September of 2023. And you get to this environment, you don't know anybody. What was this one first culture shock that you had?
So my first culture shock. When I get to that city of Ghent, it has this Gothic vibe, like with very old architectural design. So I was like, where am I? And also it was, I think in September, that time, most of the students have gone home, like Belgian students have gone home. So, and that city of Ghent is quite a studenty town area where I stay right now. So it was very abandoned. So I'm like, hey, where did I come?
There were no people.
Yeah, so there was that thing of, so should I go back? No, this is not what I signed up for, but I was able to connect with my fellow students who I had tried to contact new students who I knew were going. Some we met before I came to Belgium, like 2 of them, we met in person at least so that we could keep in touch and know how to go. When I got there, I was able to meet with them and also meet a few other new Kenyan students around the block. Yeah, and that is how we were able to move around together, learn how to use Google Maps, because you get lost a lot. Yeah, and such things.
So how did you navigate all this social life experience in a new country as an adult, first time in Europe?
I'll tell you, it's not easy. And even today, it's like 1 year and I don't know how many months later, 8 months maybe. And it still feels like yesterday. If you told me I stayed for 1 year, I'd say no. So every day is a learning process. You have to be easy on yourself. You have, well, what I tried to do was, of course, start with interacting with fellow Kenyans. They absorb you into their like Kenyan groups. It's good to find spaces where you feel more comfortable. Then after that, you can easily start integrating in the system and knowing your fellow students, your classmates. And in the meetings, you go for orientation, at least try to widen your circle because all of you are new and you have only each other to depend on. Yeah.
You know, I've listened to your story. And it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's great.
Because I can tell you, everybody has a unique path and unique way they start their scholarship experience.
Yeah.
And we get to learn a lot from individual experiences.
Yeah.
As for you, we have listened to you, and somebody who was keen enough, they already have all the necessary information. And actually, the only thing that is remaining is you starting telling us everything you learned in your lecture, which we will do in future, but not now. But then somebody might also be curious. They want to know then what happens next with you. What do you do after you graduate, and how is life in Belgium? How can I connect with you, Daisy, on a personal level? but professionally, of course.
Of course, professionally, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Daisy Muriuki on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Yeah, you can find me everywhere on social media.
Yeah, so we will leave links to her profiles in the description of this video. And as we always say, you'll also get all the necessary information. By that, of course, it's the link to VLIR scholarship.
Yeah.
As a prospect, you may want to check out these links. And in case you feel like you need to get in touch with a scholar, just connect with Daisy and hopefully she'll get in touch and help you see things through. Now, what do you have to say to this scholar, potential scholar?
So to any potential scholar, just be dedicated. First, know what you want and go for it. Yeah, so if you identify what you want, you go for it. Find the necessary things you need to do to get what you want and commit to the journey. Believe in yourself and don't stop until you get it. But of course, some things are not meant, but for what you feel like you can get, just put all the effort you need to, and do not be afraid to reach out to people. Maybe I did say this, but I had help from people who had applied the previous years. My first contact was a professor from my university who had gotten the scholarship in her master. So don't be afraid to communicate with people who are relevant to your journey. I also had to work with researchers from Kenya Marine, my institution. Those people are well versed with these processes. That is where you'll get your references. Ask friends, how did you write your papers? Just as I explained mine. If they can, ask them, can I see your CV? Can I see your application? So do not be afraid to source information. It's a good thing you're watching this. It shows you're on the right track. So do not be afraid to ask and learn and allow yourself to learn, to make mistakes and relearn. Yeah.
I won't add any extra word except to thank you for coming in to the podcast, Daisy.
Yeah. Indeed. Thank you very much. Yes.
So that was Daisy Muriuki, and this is the Management Diary. I'm your host, Omar Joseph, and until we get to meet again in the next episode, bye-bye.